are gathered in the Spirit, though our bodies are apart, filled with joy and touched with wonder, separate hands but mingled hearts, giving thanks and singing praises for the love that calls us on from our many different places. We are gathered into one. We are gathered in our sorrow. We are gathered in our fear, in our pain and in our worry, in our anger and our tears, as we turn to one another with our gifts and with our care. Our community is strengthened through the faith and hope we share. We are gathered in commitment to a planet that is home. Works of justice, acts of kindness, bless the world and heal our souls. As our voices join together, may our song of peace resound. May we offer in abundance all the grace that we have found.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Hillsborough online worship service. My name is Caroline Welty, and I am your worship coordinator for today. I would like to thank our speaker, AJ Mayhew, Wendy Calvin, our producer, Aviva Enoch, our music coordinator, and the many wonderful singers who will be featured throughout the service. Most of all, I would like to thank you all for joining us. Each week, we take a monetary offering to support our social justice work in the community. This support comes in the form of donations. This month, our community partner we will share the collection with is the Minister's Discretionary Fund. Please give generously, as shown on the screen. Thank you. Now, let's ready ourselves for worship together by reminding ourselves of who we are and why we gather. We are a community of liberal, open-minded people who strive to connect with one another in love. Our spiritual home is located at 1710 Old NC 10, but our community stretches far and wide, with loved ones who join us from all over the country as we engage in Sunday worship online. We are a people defined by covenant, not creed. That means that we have committed to a way of being with one another rather than a statement of belief. To that end, we support each other in spiritual growth and deepening of faith. We challenge one another to find more love, both inside ourselves and in the world. And today, we welcome you with open arms to our house of worship.
When he spoke in Raleigh on April 15, 1960, Martin Luther King Jr. said in part, "There is another element that must be present in our struggle, that then makes our resistance and nonviolence truly meaningful. That element is reconciliation. Our ultimate end must be the creation of the beloved community."
There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
Ours is a welcoming community where we find connection, a sharing community where our joys are celebrated, and a caring community where our sorrows are lessened. Each Sunday, we take a moment to share and reflect on the special happenings that have occurred this week in our lives. For those of you who would like to share in the comments or the chat, please do, and know that everything shared aloud or felt in silence is held dearly in the heart of this community.
Hello everybody, my name is Graham Franklin and this is Democracy by Langston Hughes. Democracy will not come today, this year, nor ever, through compromise and fear. I have as much right as the other fellow has to stand on my 2 feet and own the land. I tire so of hearing people say, let things take their course, tomorrow is another day. I do not need my freedom when I'm dead. I cannot live on tomorrow's bread. Freedom is a strong seed planted in a great need. I live here too. I want freedom just as you.
I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all these chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things I could say. Say I'm loud, say I'm clear, for the whole wide world to hear. Say I'm loud, say I'm clear, for the whole wide world to hear. I wish I could share all the love in my heart. Remove all the bars that keep us apart. I wish you could know what it means to be me. Then you'd see and agree everyone should be free. Then you'd see and agree everyone should be free. I wish I could give all I'm longing to give. I wish I could live like I'm longing to live. I wish I could do all the things I can do, though I'm way overdue. I'd be starting anew, though I'm way overdue. I'd be starting anew. I wish I could be like a bird in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found I could fly. I'd soar to the sun and look down at the sea. Then I'd sing, 'cause I know how it feels to be free. Then I'd sing, 'cause I know how it feels to be free.
Misery is when you heard on the radio that the neighborhood you live in is a slum, but you always thought it was home. Langston Hughes. To follow up the quote Jean-Michel read to you, on the same visit to Raleigh in 1960, Dr. King spoke at Shaw University and reiterated his stance on reconciliation and beloved community, saying, in part, "It must be made palpably clear that resistance and nonviolence are not in themselves good. There is another element that must be present in our struggle that then makes our resistance and nonviolence truly meaningful. That element is reconciliation. Our ultimate end must be the creation of the beloved community. The tactics of nonviolence, without the spirit of nonviolence, may indeed become a new kind of violence." Though I believed I understood the meaning of reconciliation, I went to 4 dictionaries and got similar meanings. Reconciliation begins when former enemies agree to an amicable truce. It also implies an act of reconciling, as when someone becomes resigned to something not desired. And there is the state of being reconciled, as in the action of making one view or belief compatible with another. Today, I'm going to talk about beloved community as a township or locality, as in the Brooklyn neighborhood of Charlotte, North Carolina, about which I wrote in my second novel. In the 1950s, residents of Brooklyn, a century-old Black neighborhood, were threatened with urban renewal, which writer James Baldwin called Negro removal. When I began to research that topic, I came upon many examples of communities being forced out, wiped out, mostly communities of people of color. I came to see that what was missing in acts of urban renewal and gentrification was reconciliation. Those who planned redevelopments weren't resigned to making their view compatible with that of the residents. In too many cases, as in Charlotte, the planners did not offer relocation or rebuilding. And the residents who were forced out from their neighborhoods weren't resigned to something not desired, nor reconciled to an amicable truce. An article in the Charlotte Observer in 1912 said, "Far-sighted men believed that eventually Brooklyn, because of its proximity to the center of the city, must sooner or later be utilized by the white population." 50 years later, the bulldozers rolled, as in this photo of the mayor of Charlotte on an excavating bulldozer. When the Redevelopment Commission of Charlotte planned the eradication of Brooklyn. They claimed that the neighborhood was 76% blight. Certainly, blight existed, but after years of research, I could not justify that number. It may have been 40%. What is clear is the value of the land. Note the proximity of the outlined area of Brooklyn to the center of the city at Independence Square, which is where that black star is. And this is the outline of Brooklyn. What the developers didn't consider is that where Brooklyn was located, residents had fairly equal access to all parts of the county via public transportation. After renewal, many of them lived north of I-85 and could no longer reach the places where they worked. James Peeler of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Library said, "These photos, taken in the old Brooklyn neighborhood, are typical of the images often presented of Charlotte's historically Black neighborhood near Uptown." This is a photo of two duplexes in Brooklyn that were rented out by an absentee landlord who sent out rent collectors and who seldom visited the property. In reality, the area was made up of mixed income residences and businesses. Poverty did exist, but so did spacious brick homes, movie theaters, corner stores, churches, and professional buildings, as in these photos taken in the 1950s. In this photo, which I think may have been made around early evening, a man is out walking his dogs. And this photo was dated in the early 60s, so it was very close to the time that those homes were wiped out. And in this photo, the word "no" is printed in the upper right-hand corner. I've speculated that the "no" indicates that the developers didn't want this one used when presenting their plans. Schooling was important in Brooklyn. A former resident who read the first draft of my novel said I had gotten the dialect wrong because anyone who went to Myers Street School and Second Ward High learned to speak proper English. The teachers were strict about that. In a subsequent draft, I changed the voices of my characters accordingly. Here's Myers Street School, elementary school, with its fire escapes known as Jacob's Ladder. This photo of Second Ward High is a postcard that says across the top, Second Ward School for Colored, Charlotte, North Carolina. This one is a park in Second Ward today, and it really is lovely. But when I came upon it, the first thing I thought was, where are the people who lived there? And the only mention I could find, not of Brooklyn, but of Second Ward, was, these are out of order there, was this history on a stick of Second Ward School. I could not find any mention of Brooklyn other than, well, Second Ward High Gymnasium is still there, but that doesn't mention Brooklyn. As many of you know, a similar thing happened in Durham, destroying the Hayti community when the north segment of the Durham Freeway opened in 1998. When that happened, I was delighted. The commute from my office at Duke to my home in Hillsborough was lessened by 10 minutes. Although I had attended events at the Hayti Heritage Center, I was blissfully unaware that a neighborhood of the same name ever existed. These two photos show on the left a densely populated Hayti before, and on the right, the rerouting of Fayetteville Street and the swath of destruction by Highway 147, aka the Durham Freeway. One resident said, upon returning home to Hayti during urban renewal, It was a nightmare, worse than pictures of a war-torn or burned out area. Who caused this? Who indeed? In preparing to speak to you today, I realized that while I have lots of speculation and some harsh feelings about urban renewal, I have no solutions. Thus began my search for what had been done elsewhere in this country and around the world. One example in the USA is the high-rise public housing in Chicago, the Robert R. Taylor buildings, 1959 to 2005. These 28 densely packed high-rises stretched 2 miles along the State Street corridor in the historic African-American Bronzeville neighborhood on the south side. Interestingly, less than 4 miles from where Michelle Obama grew up. In 1965, the 4,349 units held a total of 27,000 people, 4 times the population of Hillsborough. This largest public housing project in the world was part of a massive federal urban renewal plan to eliminate slums. Ironically, Chicago city officials chose to name the complex the Robert R. Taylor Homes, despite the fact that Taylor, the Black architect who designed the project and who died in 1957, would have opposed them because they intensified racial segregation. Considered in the early 1960s as marvels of modern architecture for the poor, it soon became evident that the design and location of the buildings removed families from needed social services and encouraged crime. Nor did planners anticipate the consequences of large numbers of young people, especially unemployed teens, in high-rise buildings. By the 1980s, growing community poverty and unemployment helped concentrate gang violence and drug dealing in these buildings that became national symbols of the failure of urban policy. In Zimbabwe, hundreds of thousands of people live in slums that have been subject to wide-scale demolition and a lack of government recognition. An area in the capital city of Harare demonstrates how upgrading slums through a program called Urban Resilience can work. It focuses on urban risks, which are unique and cannot be approached with the same strategy used for rural areas. Residents joined in the upgrading. And here is an upgraded dwelling in Harare. I have not been able to determine how that urban resilience has worked and is working today, if it is. Painting made a world of difference in Mumbai in India. Note the horrible condition of the beach in the foreground. There is an ocean beyond that black stuff. Residents pitched in to clean up the beach after the painting project. Here's a close-up of an alley in Mumbai. Among the first of the painted slums is this favela in Rio de Janeiro, before and after. Upgrading slums with paint resulted in an initial increase in the pride and morale of the residents, their eager participation in the artwork, and a surge in an industry called poverty tourism. Westerners may come into a slum or village thinking, I know exactly what's needed to help you. At an unconscious level, it may be that by seeking to help, there's a sense of self-justification compared with those who do nothing. Perhaps helping the poor becomes a sort of absolution from Western guilt. On the other hand, those being exploited have learned the game and will play it to get what they can, assuming a posture that says, "You are right, I'm here and I'm helpless. I want you to tell me what I need, so long as you provide it." Both postures are deceitful, and both are at the root of the often common mutual disappointment with one another. And no surprise there, since both postures are, after all, illusions. But poverty or slum tourism brings in people from the outside world who spend money and buy local goods. Painted slums are particularly attractive to poverty tourists. However, regarding the upgrading in Rio de Janeiro, a 10-year study published in 2020 paints a dark picture. Favela painting does not have a long-lasting impact on crime. While inherently a constructive idea, the general methods of its implementation do not allow it to be fully effective in improving favela conditions. It fails in several areas, from limiting the drug trade adequately to strengthening general economic conditions, among other issues of favelas' images and stereotypes. Crime remains high. Gang residents create potholes to impede police traffic and destroy streetlights, making it easier to hide in the dark. Starting with the Clinton administration of the Hope 6 program, many old project-based public housing units were demolished and replaced with mixed income developments that house fewer people and place cruel restrictions on low-income residents seeking a unit. Throughout this process, there were no one-for-one replacement requirements, so America has been losing roughly 10,000 units a year since 1995. I'll return now to the Brooklyn neighborhood. Since about 2010, there's been an upsurge of interest in the absolute wrong committed in the way this community was destroyed. The mayor of Charlotte recently issued a public apology for the taking of Brooklyn. An organization called Restorative Justice, CLT, is raising funds for reparation to those whose property was bought at well below market value. My son Jackson Fall found out about that group, and we are working together on something that may help with funding. Ironically, the city has plans for a project to provide multi-level and multi-income housing on land still vacant from the renewal. And the reason I say ironic, the proposed name is Brooklyn Village, as if Brooklyn were something fondly to be remembered. As I said in the beginning of this homily, I began looking into the topic with a lot of questions and came out of it with some new understandings, but no true solutions for upgrading slums. As you've seen, there have been many approaches, with favela painting being perhaps the most novel. But given the lack of long-term results, no real upgrade for the residents, I came to a conclusion. If you paint an elephant, it's still an elephant. It still smells like an elephant, feels like an elephant, and it lumbers and trumpets like an elephant. Some might say, well, yes, but it's so much prettier. Probably not to another elephant. So full circle to beloved community. Dr. King did not mean a township or locality. He was, of course, emphasizing the necessity of reconciliation and the creation of a beloved group, as when former enemies agree to an amicable truce. I'll close with a pertinent true story about two men, both from Charlotte, both born in 1950. Jimmy Lee Kirkpatrick's parents lived in the inner city. Dee Kirkpatrick came from the country club set. Jimmy Lee and Dee knew each other as teens, and because they had the same last name, they called each other Cuz. After high school, each went his separate way. Through a series of coincidences, they were reacquainted 50 years later in their late 60s and became good friends. Then Jimmy Lee did some family genealogy, which can be quite difficult for people whose ancestors were enslaved. He came across a startling fact. Dee's great-great-grandfather had owned Jimmy Lee's great-great-great-grandfather. In an effort at reconciliation, the two men had long and sometimes tense discussions about their shared history. Finally, Jimmy Lee said to Dee, "I'll let go of my anger if you'll let go of your guilt." Through such a path, reconciliation is possible.
Neighbors wave on streets of a town within a town, sipping tea on peaceful porches. Some of them are broken down. When we got free, we settled here. Our school and church bells rang. For years and years this was our home, until the dozers came. Down by Little Sugar, along Second and Pearl, nestled in North Carolina. This town was our whole world. Generations building families, proud of what they became. Black was black and white was white, but love was all the same. The town of Brooklyn lived and breathed. The people were its heart. Imperfect, yes, but it was ours, even with its rougher parts. The letters came in '61, said it would be torn down, and so began the needless death of our town within a town. Different and misunderstood, picked apart till it was good and gone. They made uptown out of our town, promised we'd be better off. That promise broke, but worst of all, our community was gone. They raised our dead, tore down our homes, and now tall buildings stand where we once lived and loved and laughed. Gone for progress of the man, gone for progress of the man.
My Walk Is Not Yet Ended by Nelson Mandela. I have walked that long road to freedom. I have tried not to falter. I have made missteps along the way. But I can rest only for a moment, for with freedom come responsibilities. My walk is not yet ended.
We are climbing Jacob's ladder. We are climbing Jacob's ladder. We are climbing Jacob's ladder. We are climbing on. Every round goes higher, higher. Every round goes higher, higher. Every round goes higher, higher. We are climbing on. If I stumble, will you help me? If I stumble, will you help me? If I stumble, will you help me? We are climbing on. Though the road is steep and rugged, though the road is steep and rugged, though the road is steep and rugged, we are climbing on.
We extinguish this flame, but not the spark of joy in our worship, the fire of commitment, or the warmth of community. Blessed be my friends, until we meet again.
To my loved ones and relations, with me in spirit every day, to neighbors I have not yet met, close to home and far away. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. To my friends who make good music, sharing joy both far and wide, and to those who we depend on to teach, to heal and guide. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. And to all who hear this message, to strangers and to friends, here's an embrace of music until we meet again. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. Come on now, be safe, wash your hands,